The views and opinions expressed in the following podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the producers, the affiliates, or digital platforms hosting this podcast. All content is for the purposes of education, conjecture, and at times entertainment. We promote inclusiveness and diversity. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Into the Deep with Jay Costa.
Welcome to Into the Deep. I'm Jay Costa. I'm excited about today's guest. He's a Sasquatch researcher, an experienced outdoorsman, trained investigator, and new author, Carter Buschardt. We talk about so much in this episode, everything from Carter's expeditions into the deep forests of America and the incredible physical evidence he's uncovered that he says proves the existence of Sasquatch. We talk about the nearly 400 witnesses he's interviewed, about their encounters and fascinating events, some of which even defy logic. Carter's research and reports have been featured on the BFRO site, and he's even consulted for Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot series. So, join me as we seek light and journey into the deep with Carter Buschardt. Enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me, Carter.
I'm very, very happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So much stuff to talk about, and so much I want to listen to. Your newest book just came out, brand new. Sasquatch: Evidence of an Enigma 2. Oh my gosh, love it.
That's it. Yeah, I've forgotten. Sent George with the book in PDF form way too late. I just forgot.
No, that's all right. I was able to skim through a good chunk of the beginning of it, but also just obviously just fascinated, and it makes for a great conversation for you to be able to give the listeners and the viewers some info and some background. So
yeah, there's the first one.
Yeah,
and this picture here will come into play in the second book, depending on what we talk about. But
gotcha.
Anyway,
awesome,
so,
man.
Hit me.
Well, I can't. Virtually, I can't.
Yes, you can.
So, for our listeners and our viewers, can you share who you are and what it is you've been up to?
Well, I'm Carter Buschardt. I've been investigating with BFRO for about 13 years. I've had 100 reports published to BFRO.net, which is a lot. I've probably spoken with about 400 people, 400 witnesses over the last 10, 12 years. In the last 2 years, it's been crazy with the quantum paranormal stuff that's coming, leaking through the flesh and blood only sector, but it's just amazing. And after I did the first book and was doing the podcast rounds, I had 16 people contact me. And half of those ended up in the second book because their stuff was like, you gotta be kidding me, And I do vet people as good as I can. In other words, you can interview people a certain way and find out if they're yanking your chain or not, and
right.
Stuff like that, and just verify other things. And so, but these people are all real, down to earth people that just had an extraordinary event. And I'm not talking about a road crossing. I'm talking about just mind-blowing stuff, the stuff that most people are still scratching their heads about. They're going, yeah, that guy's full of crap. Me, not my witnesses necessarily, me for putting it in a book.
Right.
I took my cryptid career and I'm gambling with it, but I don't care because these people need to be heard, because some of this stuff is, like I said, it's mind-blowing and it's real. I mean, when you see something, it doesn't matter what it is, it's your reality, and nobody can take that away from you. They could scoff at you, make fun, shun you, whatever. But if it happens and you can tell that these people are deeply affected, by God, it needs to be told, because there's people listening right now who are going, oh, listen, honey, listen to this guy. That's what happened to Uncle Bob and my cousin. Remember, like 2 years ago down at the river? Remember? They don't want to talk about it. There's people right now that have had an experience or know somebody that has, and they either called them crazy or they were called crazy, and now they're going, oh my God, because a lot of these people were not believers. They believed maybe it's possible they exist, but I don't believe any of that stuff. And then when it happened, all bets are off.
Mm-hmm.
Their mind is forever changed from one way or the other. It's just like, oh, well, just because people say it can't exist, can't happen, doesn't mean it can't and doesn't happen, because it does. So my background is, I was a drummer for about 20 years.
Nice.
I toured around, and I did comedy, improv and sketch comedy for about 3 years. Then I got into real estate for about 25 years after one of my partners died, comedy partners. And here I am.
Right on, man. All right. So I saw the House of Blues hat. So I was like, all right, he's either a huge fan of music or he's a musician. So I was right on both counts.
Yeah. I played. I did a lot of shows. I mean, my bands are very successful. Not quite, getting the record deal, but we one of my bands opened for the Who. Another band we opened for the Cars and Journey, Taj Mahal.
That's awesome.
So we were like one of the bands. But I grew up playing with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy Vaughan. So we're all from Dallas. I'm from Dallas, Texas. And so they're from Oak Cliff, South Oak Cliff, which is kind of like the wrong side of the tracks. But look where it got them, and I'm still slaving for a living. So that goes to tell you what wrong side of the tracks can do, So all well and good. I had a great run and no regrets, Except I'm still working for a living.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway.
Do you still play drums?
Yeah, for therapy. Yeah,
Awesome.
I go downstairs and bang on my tubs. We have a granddaughter. She's 5 and she's autistic, but she loves the drums. She loves the vibration. She goes down there and plays on them, and she's like, it's therapeutic for both of us. But she gets to exhibit her personality and her feelings without getting shunned or anything, because how kids are, peer pressure.
Yeah.
And she's very, very expressive in that arena. She just loves them. So I may have to take up playing again just for that.
Yeah, and you're so right. Where music can be therapy. I mean, for me, it's very cathartic, and it's something to be said about the vibrations and the frequency, which kind of ties into this quantum physics aspect of Sasquatch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does. And so if they can, and my philosophy is the Brussels sprouts thing. You don't have to believe it, but you just consider the possibility. Like Brussels sprouts, I don't like them. But my host is serving me Brussels sprouts, I'm gonna move them around the plate. I'll spear them with a fork. Pretend I'm gonna eat it, but not really. I'll get rid of it and then just turn the plate in. But at least I pretended and considered. So that's all I ask, is that you consider the possibility of the tales that I've been told, that I'm just relating. I don't do any embellishing. All the names are changed. All the locations are changed, because none of that's important. And so I just ask that, you consider the stories these people are telling as possibly able to happen, and that's all you got to do, is just think about it. And if you do think about it, it'll hit you in the face, like a sledgehammer. It'll hit you in the face, so. I've got. You just tell me where you want to start, because I've got all kinds of.
Yeah,
it's theory. If you got to, you want to talk about theories and things of that nature, or just outright events, it's up to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that the thing that's fascinating about what your work is and what you're talking about is, I think we all grew up knowing the flesh and blood Bigfoot, right? Most people talk about that, right? But like you said, you have people that are coming to you with these stories. You've had some experiences. So how can we kind of open some minds and some hearts to how this can happen with this quantum physics aspect to this, what people think is just this oversized ape, which isn't,
Well, my initial group that I was hanging with here in Missouri, and I've led 4 expeditions for BFRO, 3 here in Missouri, and one, it'll be 3 years ago almost in Illinois, October in Illinois. And so that was a very closed-minded group. Yeah, no, that kind of stuff can't happen. That ain't right. No, it's got to be something else. It's, they can't do this, they can't do that. They're just a dumb ape that hadn't been discovered. Well, if it's just a dumb ape that hasn't been discovered, why all the secrecy? Why all the denial? And so my first trip into the quantum aspect was seeing one. I was watching one on my thermal camera. We had a group that was lost. They got separated from us at night. And so we were waiting for them to find us. We just stopped where we were because they're lost. We had bad radio because we're up and down hollers and stuff. So we were just waiting. And I was scanning the woods and looking. I had quit recording because I want to save battery life. And I'll tell you why, I'll never do that again. I'll burn up all my batteries because, I wish I'd been recording when I saw what I saw. But oh well. You can talk to 20 guys and 18 will say, I just couldn't. I was too flustered. I couldn't figure out what my fingers were doing. And you missed it, And that happens anyway.
Yeah.
I saw one, and I saw the heat signature through the woods at night. I was going, oh God, they're finally here. Great, oh good. And so when they come around the corner, well, it's not them. It's a Sasquatch. Big, 7.5, 8 foot. We recreated it the next day when we went back out in the day, and my couple of believer friends went with me, investigators. And so when it took one step, 2 steps, on the third step, poof, it just exploded. It's like the heat signature just popped.
Wow.
And all that was left was like best way I can describe it is kind of like a smoke ring, like somebody had blown a Sasquatch smoke ring. Just the very faint outline was still there in the shoulders, and then it was just kind of wisping into the night. It was gone. Cool. Well, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't drinking, not on drugs. My equipment, top of the line flare equipment. Nothing could have been wrong with my perception or the gear. So I saw what I saw. And though that got me, I said, well, I have just been baptized. I'm going to the other side because the flesh and blood group can explain about 30%, maybe 40, but the rest of it you can't. So when someone says, well, I just walked through a tree, or I heard a voice in my head, or I was frozen, I couldn't move. Well, what do you do with that stuff? Well, you were sleep paralysis. You were having a bad dream. You thought you were seeing something. You were, you can't just see something unless you're paranoid or paranoid schizophrenic. Those are two medically proven events that can cause you to hallucinate.
Right.
And some PTSD. If you're suffering from PTSD and you forgot your meds or whatever, you can momentarily see things that aren't there PTSD wise, but that soon dissipates. But the rest of it, unless you're got mental issues and you're walking around unmedicated and seeing stuff all the time, those reports are just not hallucinations. They're the real deal. So then how do you explain it? Well, then you get into quantum mechanics, quantum physics. That's why I had Ron Moorhead. He commented on my first book, in several spots. And I've actually interviewed him a few times. And he and I have met a long time. He was here in Missouri. He came to one of my habituation sites, him and Scott Nelson, a long time ago.
Nice.
So anyway, so what do you do with that? And you can take 500 reports of weirdness. And so what do you do with that? Do you slide it over here and go, well, we're not going to talk about that because that can't be? Or do you dissect it and try to figure out what I do with all my witnesses? I always have, I always will, I'll do it to the day I die, is that I give them possible explanations. Because you have to, as a researcher, I've got to come up with, well, it could have been this. It could have been the sun was in your eye. It wasn't a guy in a ghillie suit. It could have been a deer walking on his hind legs. No, not really. It could have been a bear walking on his legs. Well, they do that, hind legs. So you have to run through all the possibilities. And if you just, it's the Occam's razor thing. The simplest explanation is usually the best and the most accurate. Because the more you have to convince, move stuff around to make it fit, the less likely that is it, however unlikely it might be. Well, it walked into a tree and it never came out the other side. I don't know, how did it do that? Or I heard a voice, or I was paralyzed in my sleep bag. I couldn't get up, and the Sasquatch just appeared in front of me. It stuck its arm through my wall and zapped me right in the forehead with its finger and knocked me down to the. So what do you do with that? You can't explain it away. You try to give all the possible scenarios. So that's what I do with all these folks. And like I say, I don't identify them because none of that's important. Where they live,
Right.
If it's a public area, I usually will give that away, but not their name and location, their personal private property, stuff like that. So then you just have, and I think right now the way the world is, without getting political or disease oriented or any of that crap, we're going through some weird stuff right now. I almost think this is kind of a period of knowing and enlightenment, because a lot of bizarre stuff is happening, and the government, I think, knows full well what the Sasquatch are. The lumber companies, the paper companies, they know full well what they are. I got if you read that book, I don't know if you had a chance to read my guy in Canada, Blowing a Mind in Canada, the Let's Plant Trees. That's a classic example of a cover-up. When something is seen and experienced, you say something at all, you will never work in this industry again. And if you knew how hard it was to get a job in the bush in the 1970s and 80s in Canada, it was very hard. So you didn't want to, rock the boat.
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of, my outline of how I come to talk to these people, put those stories in the book once I've decided that they're not imagining, things, Now, if you start your story out, well, we were out just drinking and fishing at night. Well, okay, so you've got something going against you. Are you drinking?
Right.
Probably means nothing. I mean, I can sit there and have a couple of beers or a cocktail, and it's nothing to you or me or anybody,
Right.
But if that drinking a couple of beers is subjective. Well, what do you mean by a couple of beers? A couple of cases, a couple of six packs, a couple of beers. So anyway, but these people are having just shocking events, and a lot of these people, what they did was, I'm investigating just a kind of a pedestrian, a road crossing, or a Sasquatch was watching me across the river while I was fishing with my dad or something, which is, shocking in and of itself. But if you've never seen one, but then after that, it's like they're feeling me out. And so then they go, well, now I want to tell you something weird. I'm going, okay, you just told me about a creature that doesn't exist. And you saw one, and now you're going to tell me something weird, and bring it on, because I want to hear what you think is weird, And then they come up with this incredible revelation, I've got people that they call them by their name, in other words, the Sasquatch call them by their names.
Wow.
And they have names for the Sasquatch. It would just depends on, what rabbit hole you want to go down, but that's kind of what happened. This just exploded into my face, because I probably did about 45 or 50 podcasts last year, and I'm already done up to a dozen already this year. It's just 2 months. So, it's just getting crazy.
Yeah. I have, especially have to agree with you, like where now there's disclosure about, UFOs or UAPs, people talking like, stuff that the control of the information for so long. And so to your point, with the control of the information around Sasquatch, and there's so much room for conjecture. There's so much room for like theories and people have theorized, are they some sort of in-between species that extraterrestrials tampered with when they were trying to perfect us? I've heard that theory, as I'm sure you have. We've heard, we've heard theories of like, are they results of Nephilim, if you want to think about that. So there's so many different things. In your opinion, with the research you've done and your experience, where are you seeing Sasquatch? And do you feel like there are multiple kinds of species?
Yeah, I think there's a variety of species of them, but I think they've been here longer than we have. If you go with biblical data, we've been here around 6,000 years, give or take. Someone will argue that, but I'm just picking a number. If you read anything about Lloyd Pye's book, Everything You Know Is Wrong, if you've ever read that book, that will blow your top of your head off, because it gets into the Anunnaki came here to mine gold, because gold can be used to plug the hole in their atmosphere. Their planet was dying, Narubu, and so they're mining gold here. Well, they came here and took a couple of 100,000 years and boiled the Sasquatch, or the humanoid creatures that were here, down to us hairless apes. We had the right amount of brain power, we had a right amount of physical strength and dexterity to mine the gold and to make relatively harmless decisions as far as doing the job we had. So if you go with that, that is an incredible story, and that stuff is all in the Sumerian, the cylinders that the Sumerians left behind, the gold cylinders. That's all in there, and so that's all been swept aside. Had they build the pyramids in Machu Picchu and all these other places? Well, it wasn't 10,000 Nubian slaves with wooden rollers across a sand-laden desert, hoisting 20-ton stones up 400 feet. I mean, just come on. We can't even do that now.
Right. People have tried to recreate it numerous times.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of theories, and all that's swept under because everybody has, the government and other powers that be, have an agenda they want to push. And it involves having the story be just the way they say it is, And here's why people don't believe. And you take the teacher who taught the teacher, 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 who taught you. You go back just 10 generations, 25 years of generation, that's 250 years of misinformation. So, and it's not really the teacher's fault. The teachers were handed a book. This is our curriculum. You teach this to the students, get your check, go home, make babies, have a great life, and everybody's happy. And so you've perpetuated the baloney that is the history of the world, apes, creationism, evolution, all of that stuff. It's all constructed. It's a prepackaged meal. It's like Weight Watchers. Any one of these will do as long as you buy the Weight Watchers. Okay, well, just give me half that. Let me have the tuna salad. So, but you're teaching everybody, and then you go out in the world. You've been educated since you were 3, since you come out of the birth canal, from the age of about 3 to, let's say, 22. If you get all your high school in and 4 years of college, you say 22. So the whole world's been handed to you in a pre-packaged format. So when you see something, you immediately discount it, unless a few people with open minds start questioning things, and thank God there are people that question things, like you and I. So, but if you are just happy with the world the way it's handed to you, there's nothing wrong with that. You're happy. You don't care about Sasquatch. You don't care about UFOs. I believe there's probably life somewhere else. It's not a big thing on your plate, so that's fine. But for those that are wanting to know, and you start digging, well, it gets harder and harder to dig, and it's just, you're really close to the surface. All of a sudden you can't go anywhere because the preconceived notions have been crammed down, and you're going to always, I will still find myself thinking, nah, that can't be. Oh wait, no, yes, it can't be, and well, the government wouldn't lie. But wait. Yeah, they did. They lied about UFOs for 80 freaking years, 1940s. Roswell, and actually there was another more famous crash before that in 1944. I think, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so they've been lying all along, and finally they admit it. So what's the next step? What's going to be? It's going to be Sasquatch. They're going to throw us a bone like the Tic Tac videos. They're going to throw us a little bone. Well, yes, we don't know. We didn't build that. We can't build that. We do not have that technology, but we don't know where it came from. And that's about all we got. If you want to go any further, they threw us a bone, and we're going to suck on that bone for a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years until something forces their hand. Well, with Sasquatch, it's going to be the same thing, because the DNA is going to catch them, and the technology that just us mere humans have in our hands now with our phones and thermal gear and recording. I mean, it's just, they're going to have to cough it up. sooner, probably more than later, because it's coming to a head. You just can't keep BSing us. You just can't keep doing that and expect us to lay there and take it. So anyway, that's my theory as to how we got to where we are, and it's they've lied, and there's nothing to say that they won't continue to do it because it's in their best interest, because they're trying to monetize it or powerize it. Have the right power to be able to conquer the world, conquer the planet, conquer all our enemies, vanquish them all. And once they get all that under control, we'll throw them a little more information. It's going to be the same with Sasquatch. So, animals are discovered every day, every week. New insects, new mammals, amphibians, any plants. Something once a week. Doesn't even make the headlines anymore. So, why is Sasquatch just not discussed? Government says no. Science says no. Well, because there's something else there, something going on. That's my firm belief that there is something to them. I think they are the masters of the planet. They know how. They're trying to teach us. This comes from people that are much more spiritual than I, but I get this, that they're trying to teach us how to get along with one another, how to take care of the planet and be good to one another. And that's all they're really here, is to try to keep us in check and keep us from blowing ourselves up and the planet that they live on also. So, I think that's their purpose here, and I've got some witnesses that are having some very emotional, spiritual, metaphysical relationships, conversations with them. And or unless they're smoking the good stuff, there's something going on with that, So have you seen one or ever experienced anything? Or
I have not had any experiences, but what's great is growing up, I remember asking my parents, is Bigfoot real? And my parents were always so open to it, always so open to the idea and the possibility. And my dad, especially, we love going out to the woods. We'd go for hikes and such real nature people. So he'd say, you know what? Why couldn't there be one? Why couldn't there be many? It just he always made sure that we had this open mind and open heart about everything. My mother as well. So I've never been closed off to it. I and I believe that they are out there, and gosh, would I love to experience something? Sure. But probably be a little scared at the same time.
Well, yeah. And I had my infrasound experience and my witness in Canada. So how long are we going for tonight? An hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, my infrasound of it, this is kind of interesting, unless you have any specific questions. But
this is great. Great conversation.
So the place where I saw that one vanish, that area, it's here in Missouri. It became one of my research areas, and I can go down there anytime. And I'm probably 80% of the time I have something, and I don't call a stick structure or a knock something. I'm talking about something a little bit more spiritual or physically enlightening, And so my wife sees all the evidence and photos and things I get here, and she's going, that's interesting. That's nice. I'm glad you believe. And I'm just going, you don't patronize me.
It's nice, honey.
Yeah. You go play with your little ape friends. Go, okay, so I'm going to take you camping with me. And she's an old Nebraska girl, so not old, but she's a Nebraska girl. She's a farm girl, so she's not afraid of getting her hands dirty or popping a squat behind a tree. I mean, she's past that. She's not old girly, So I said, I'm going to take you somewhere, and of course, when you say that, nothing happens.
Oh, that's just the rule.
That's just the rule. But I know my area, and the area that I took her to was the area where I saw that one vanish.
Okay.
I made that one of my research areas because I've had 3 published reports out of there, all class A's, eye to eye, 30, 40, 50 feet away, and no mistake about it. One of them's from a preacher. 2 of them are from a preacher. Same guy. So if he's lying, he'll be in the front of the line to hell, because he doesn't want anything either, Anyway, so I took her to this area, and I took her to the area like where this creature was coming from. I took her to where he was coming from, because that's where we had left the other people off and they got lost. So you pull up to this gate. It's a big metal gate, and it's a conservation area. So you cannot drive any kind of vehicle, ATV, nothing. You're not allowed to go down there because it's treacherous footing. And I think word was they had pulled too many people out of the ruts down there.
Gotcha.
Said, we're not doing that. We're going to gate it off. And if you're trapped, it's up to you. You call a tow truck. We're not messing with it. So anyway, it's about 100 yards from the top of this gate where I parked down to the bottom, which is in the bottom is just around the corner from where it appeared and disappeared. It flashed and just disappeared. So we're walking down there, and she's immediately creeped out already. The hair on the back of your neck, that someone's watching me, someone's here. I said, yeah, this is their living room. So don't worry about it. Don't panic, because I'm used to that feeling. I know when I'm in their living rooms. There's a lot of living rooms out there. So I'm walking down there, and as I get about a third of the way, she's freaking out. I want to go back. I'm going back to the car. And I said, no, you'll never, just stay with me. Everything's fine. I said, I'm going back to the car. I said, look, you have to go all the way back up there. And I shine my flashlight up to where the car was parked. It was gone.
The car was gone.
The car was gone. And I'm saying, where's the car? And she's going, it's right there. You're shining your light on it. No, it's not there. Where'd it go? And I just, what's the word? Just automatically, I shone it down to where I was going.
Yep.
There was the car.
So you didn't see it where it was parked. You're seeing it where you were going. So clearly had moved in your perspective.
Yes. And she's going, when I'm shining down there to where I was going, I said, how did the car get down there? And she's looking. Now she's getting really freaked out because I'm hallucinating, and she's going, and she goes, there's no car there. The car's back up there. I said, no, it's not. I shined the light and it was gone to me. And she's going, the car's right there. I could see the tail light. I mean, it was, I could see it. And so she's going, we're done. I said, no. We're going to get down. So I did this 2 or 3 times going back and forth. And I knew what was happening to me, but I couldn't do anything about it. They control your vibrational frequency. Infrasound is anybody who's done any research infrasound, a lot of animals use infrasound. It's not, it's lions, tigers, giraffes, elephants, whales, dolphins, all of them, they use infrasound. You can communicate, but it's certain frequencies. It's above and below the sound of, the human range of hearing. It can jack you up. They use it to break up riots in the European countries.
It's weaponized. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it just turns your guts all inside out. Anyway, so we do that a few times. And then I shine the light back up where the car should have been. And there it was. I went, wait. How that? And I shine the light back down where we were going, where I saw the car. It was gone. So it was back to normal. She goes, what is wrong with you? I'm going, well, I think they're trying to teach me a lesson, because I was trying to teach you a lesson. I think that was the lesson I got out of that, was there was like, you're going to teach her something. I'm going to teach you something, And I'd been through infrasound a couple of times before where I literally could not get out of my sleeping bag, and I had to pee real bad. And I didn't wet myself, but I could not get out of my bag because one was right by my tent. So anyway, that was baptism by fire. She said, whatever you say, I believe from now on, I'm out of here. So we went back to the campsite and we slept like babies. But that was either it was some type of hypnosis or it was infrasound. I prefer to think it was infrasound because I wasn't like, I saw it. I mean, I physically saw it there, or I thought I did.
Right.
So that is, they can manipulate you if they want to, and they did. And, this is the part that gets a little, trippy is what I'm thinking, like what I said earlier, that they were teaching me a lesson because I thought I was teaching her a lesson. Well, I became the student, not the teacher, because I have what I consider to be an ongoing relationship with a clan that is down there. I seem to interact with him quite often. Me and my partner, Brian, he goes with me. We go down there and we usually have interactions. So that was That was a real cool story. And every time I tell that story, I get chills, when I tell it, because it was like a defining moment, that, when I saw that one disappear, there's probably 2 years since I'd seen that when I took her back there. It had been a couple of years, and it validated what happened there in the first place. To me, you know what I mean? It was just like, okay, I've got that down. So let's go to the next step, so that was just stunning. Now, I've got a story. If we're on to time, we got 6:30, we got a half hour.
Absolutely.
I've got a story.
Sasquatch evidence of an enigma too. Let's see. From what I can see here, I see some scrapes, and are there some rocks on top of there?
How many?
Is that 4? Resolution's a little 4 or 5. My resolution's a little weird.
5.
5. Okay.
And what do you see down here? There's one rock down there.
Okay.
But there's one flat round rock.
Okay.
So this plays into another relationship. So I led an expedition, Illinois, 2019, October. Now, it was on the books with BFRO. The person who was going to do the expedition couldn't do it. So he backed out. He or she, I don't know who it was. And so they took it off the books. Well, a lot of people already paid their money and they wanted to go. And so they couldn't find anybody for a while. They put out an APB. Hey, does anybody want to do this expedition in Illinois? I said, well, no, it's only about 300 miles away from me. What the heck? I've got a buddy who lives there. He's a Squatch buddy. And so I said, I'll do it. Well, by the time I signed up, there was only 4 paying customers left because everybody got tired of waiting and they said, we want our money back. So there was 4 people and me. And then my friend Harold. That's 6 people. How many rocks?
6 rocks.
6 rocks. Okay. Now we found probably about a half a dozen footprints. We cast 3 of them. And we went to this area. And it was a long ravine. You could not drive down there, but it was walkable. Now my friend Harold could not walk it because he has had cancer. He had a stroke. He just could not navigate that terrain. So when I took my group there one night, he stayed in the parking lot in his car, and we walked down to this area that I'd scouted ahead of time and found. Now, during the day, we had found, I'd say, a good number of footprints. We cast 3 of them. We went back we let them dry and set for a while. We went back. There was a tree pushed over on each print, covering it up. Little saplings, a little, about 6 inch, just sapling, but 10 or 12 foot tree. It was covering the prints. Well, they don't like leaving their footprints, and somebody probably got a lot of crap for leaving their footprints. These were bare footprints. Some of these others were marginal, probably human, but they were elongated, distorted because of the terrain. So anyway, so I knew I was in the right spot because these trees were pushed over. They didn't want us to see those prints. They didn't want us to find them. Now they could have destroyed them, but that's not their nature. They just covered them up and thought, well, where'd they go? I must have been in the wrong place, whatever. They didn't destroy them because that is not their nature, for the most part. So anyway, get to that point. So we're walking down, this is 10, 11 o'clock at night, and you could hear them. The sides of these ravines are about 25 feet up and heavily wooded. And you could hear them as we were walking, you could hear them paralleling us, following us. They were throwing little sticks and twigs and small pebbles, but they wouldn't communicate. No grunts, no nothing. They were just jacking with us, So we got down to where I had decided was our stopping point for the night because I couldn't get past this fallen tree. I didn't know what was there. And so I asked everybody if they wanted to go or not. And they were kind of freaked out, but they all wanted to go forward. Well, there was this one person there, and she was a risk. You know, she was flighty and she kept changing her outfit to go squatching, and she'd run off into the woods and not tell anybody where she was or what she was doing. And her boyfriend, he couldn't even find her, and she, phone service was sketchy. So anyway, I decided to go back because I didn't want to risk if something actually happened that this woman freaks out and runs amok and runs off a cliff. So, I'm responsible. So I said, I think we got our money's worth tonight, because the tension and the pent up emotion of knowing that they're there and hearing them crunch, 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 boom, sitting down and then watching this for a while. Then they get up and walk as we walked, and then they sit down again. You could hear all this. You're going, God, are we that amusing? I mean, really, what do you want to watch a bunch of stupid humans? But anyway, they were doing it. We were their entertainment for the night. So we went back. And when we were leaving, what I did was I went back the night before we left the next morning. It was over. I left a camera. And on the way home to Kansas City, I stopped to get my camera. Those rocks appeared. That pointed rock, it's me, the expedition leader. There's 4 rocks behind me. That's the people I'm leading. The one rock on the other end, Harold. Because we went back 2 nights. The second night, we got nothing. The second night, Harold stayed at our campsite. So the 6 rocks are me, the 4 expedition goers, and Harold. He was at the other end of the tree, which I interpreted, because I'm real smart. He's there, but he's not there.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I found that, I about lost my poop. I was just like, oh, no, that's got to be something. No, because that wasn't there the night before, because I put my cameras there. So there was nothing there. They appeared between 11:30 and 12 midnight at night. And this is during COVID, 2019. And it's 2020, excuse me. They appeared there. Who would be walking around there at midnight? Other campers, hikers at midnight? Possible. It's potentially possible. So when I called Harold and told him, he went, oh my God, and that it didn't even hit me until I was really hit me until I was on my way home. I was like, oh my God, and I called my wife to tell her, and she goes, what time did that happen? Oh God, I don't know when it happened, but it was about 10:30, 11:30 when we left, and that stuff wasn't there. So it could have been any time, like say midnight on till 8 o'clock the next morning, because I wanted to get home. I've been gone a while because I was there 4 days ahead of everybody else scouting, by myself. So I tell her that, and she goes, well, I got to tell you something. I was in the bedroom and I saw a blue orb flying through the room. And not only did she see it physically with her eyes, she's watching it, she also saw it as a reflection in our bedroom dresser mirror. So she saw it, and she could also see that. So she wasn't like hallucinating, because she saw the reflection as well as the original. And it flew around a couple of times and just went into the bathroom and was gone. So I took myself and 2 other, Brian, my partner here, I took him with me, and we met Chris and Harold there this past year in 2021. And we went down there. The rocks were all gone except for one. And Harold could make it this time. He made it all the way down to the log. I couldn't wait to show him the log. Well, the rocks were all gone except for one, his rock. And it had been moved from down here at the end. Mm-hmm. All these rocks were gone, and his one solo rock was here, signifying that, congratulations, Harold, you made it. it just,
Wow.
if you just go into the serendipitousness, if that's even a word, the serendipity. I don't believe in coincidences, no way, shape, or form, especially in this field. So they either were watching and someone jumped up ahead, or they already knew from visiting our mines that Harold made it, and that was his rock. And I knew it was his rock because in the book, you probably haven't gotten that far in the book.
Not yet. No.
I had taken 2 of those rocks. Let's see if I can find them. And I dusted them for prints just to see. I can't find them. Anyway, they're in the book. I dusted them for prints. And so there was no prints. So I put them back exactly where I got them. His rock, because he's shorter and dumpy. I'm tall and slender. He's short and dumpy. My rock is kind of that long arrow head shaped rock, and his is kind of the round, chunky one. Not to categorize him, but that's just his body type, And so there it was. What do you do with that? What do you and since then, weird stuff has been happening at our home with communication type things and other odd things at our house, which I want to attribute to them. I think I'm probably on, but I can't say for sure because, when one of our kids was still living here, she was having, there was something actually in my office here. There was something messing with the hangers in the closet at night. 3 o'clock in the morning, she'd wake up, all the hangers were going back and forth. Then they'd stop when she got up. So I can't say that, it was them, but regardless of that, the fact that those rocks appeared, it was exactly the count, the body count. And then when Harold, now they could have left 4 rocks, but I think Harold was the only constant, Harold and myself, with the 4 of us that all showed up. But I think it was like an award or a prize, like It was something signifying. So JC, what have you saw or heard something like that, or anything remotely what would you be thinking?
Right. That's, I guess I would probably have the same,
you have other options potentially, but
yeah,
but the numerology of it, the exact rocks and the split up with 5 and then 1 on the other end because he was there, but wouldn't. But what do you do with that in a barren, hard to reach area? Right. And the reason I picked this area because we had one couple that was from the area I was in Illinois, Murfreesboro-ish area. I said, well, where's a good place to go? Well, I'll tell you where you don't want to go. And we don't go, nobody in town goes to this place after dark. Ain't nobody but nobody. No badass hunter or hunter girl or hunter woman. Nobody.
That's where you got to go.
I said, that's where we're going. Because they say there's too much weird stuff going on. And the baddest MFs in the world won't go down there. And they'll tell you they won't go down there. So, well, let's go. Because I guess that'll be good parking. Can't nobody be down there, So it was just. So what do you do with that when you're? I mean, it's okay if you have other potential explanations, but you just it's that Occam's razor thing again,
Right.
What are the odds of somebody walking back that area between midnight and 8 o'clock in the next morning?
Right, with that number with that exact number of rocks, placing them in that direction, knowing the story of who was coming, who was staying behind. Right, probability is.
Yeah, it's just odds and probability. You go. What do you and that's the kind of stuff I'm hearing from people. Very similar stories. What time is it? We got 10 minutes, so I better not go into that story. It'll take 14 minutes, but. When you start hearing that stuff and then you experience it yourself, you go, okay, all right, I'm onto something, and so are these other people. They're onto something, and so, for the physical realm, You may or may not have. Did you see that handprint?
I see the one behind you, which is
Oh,
pretty
no,
awesome.
that's one from here local. This is in the book. This I can explain to you.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh, man.
So much for them controlling trail cams with their potential interrupting of the electronic signal, and killing the batteries and stuff. That was taken at a witness. He has 36 cameras.
Wow.
He has them in groups of 3, and each camera is within about 25 feet of each other. So there's 3, and they're looking at each. The camera is looking at the camera, is looking at the camera. So if he's just looking for for deer and other stuff,
right?
But he's knows there's something else going on there. So so he's got them triangulated. So and there's like, what's 3? It's 10. 3 times 12, 3 times, I think 3 times 12 is 36. Yeah, 36 cameras. So it's 3 is a dozen areas, and I've been there. I've been there, and so it's probably 50 square yards. This area that he has all these cameras, and so he likes to hunt, but not as bad as this other guy who was standing there when this picture was taken. He was standing there when I walked in front of the camera. So he lets this other guy hunt, and in return for hunting, he gets some of the kill and just check the batteries, switch out my cards when I can't get there, and just bring me whatever. So he was up in his blind, and I was up in the blind that day. I'd been up there before. And so the guy was up in his blind having a cigarette before he quit hunting for the day. He's about to walk down, and he sees a Sasquatch walk up on the other, about 50 yards away, walks up this little clearing in the brush. It's solid woods. He walks up in this little clearing, and he's staring at the blind. He sees the guy, and my guy's looking at him. He's in there. He just freezes. He's looking. They're looking at each other. Then it calmly just takes a left and walks along the tree line, like he's not even there. Click. He walks right in front of the camera. In fact, if you look at the camera, you can't see it here, but if you look at it closely, it looks like he might have even bumped the camera, because the hand picture is good, but the background is kind of
skewed.
Yeah, like it got bumped, and so, but anyway, what do you do? And the guy that saw it, he's a preacher, and it's like, and he saw it, and the creature just walked nonchalantly and never looked back at him like, you puny human, just go away. You mean nothing to me. You can't hurt me. Now, there's a Sasquatch that didn't get the memo about, hey, Sasquatch Jr., do not walk in front of those little boxes with the eyeballs on them, because the humans, they can take your picture, but it did. And there's some, you've probably seen from other sources, some pretty good looking photos. Mm-hmm. They might be blurry in Sasquatch, sure, but you might, this is one of the better handprints you'll ever see, and that handprint back there. But anyway, that's the story behind that. So that handprint here was taken in Missouri. There's a place here, I'm in Kansas City. I'm actually in Liberty, Missouri. Okay. If you go down, if you know where that's at.
I know Rolla and St. Clair pretty well.
Yeah.
St. Louis too, but yeah.
Yeah, St. Clair, that's a good area. I've got the habituation witnesses live there, which means they have ongoing activity and they have a symbiotic relationship with these Sasquatch. That's a whole other story, since we're pinched for time. But that handprint behind me, that is 13 inches from the base of the palm to the tip of the middle finger. It's NBA material. Now, my partner, Brian Woods, took that one. He found it and took it. And so we took that to, at the time I had a connection in a crime lab, I won't mention, and I dusted the prints. I put them on the fingerprint cards like you're supposed to do with the police. They have the little fingerprint cards. and they took him in, my connection there, he took it in, and they said, number one, whoever this is has no criminal record, which I thought was kind of funny because they were trying to see if he would say where this person came from, because those are huge. This print, this print here is twice the size of ours.
Wow.
But there's dermal ridges on that print. That print is in this book. But there's dermal ridges on the palm and the meat of the right in here, where the thumb is, right here, and a couple of fingers. There's dermal. I mean, so it's like, it's a fingerprint. It's not faked. It's a real print. And the other thing they said was, well, I don't know who this is. I don't want to know who it is. Don't ever bring anything like that in here ever again. Because they can't tell. Because when you take a fingerprint card into the crime lab, you're on camera. So that has to get run through the database.
Right.
And you don't want to explain stuff that you cannot explain because you're doing a favor for a Sasquatch friend,
Right.
Anyway, so and so the other print, the one that's next to the handprint, that broken print, that was taken really about 5 miles from that one at another habituation site. Now that one is 19 inches, and I've got a published report on that one in BFRO. And he ran out of plaster. He was using plaster. I use UltraCal 30, which is a really good. It's much harder and dries quicker, and it's not nearly as brittle. Anyway, that one was 19 inches. He ran out of plaster. He cast it before he got a hold of me, and I was, I couldn't be reached. And so the ruler there is 19 inches. He didn't get the toes, but I got a picture of the footprint in the sand.
Wow.
So that's 19 inches. Now the one right there, the third one there, that is the Patterson Gimlin. That's Patty.
Okay.
And then the one on the right, this one over here is Paul Freeman. Familiar with Paul Freeman?
Wow.
From Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I've got my little microscope back there, which I can't use anymore because the camera burned up. So I've got a digital microscope on order.
Nice.
Which is better. So, and I've got a new witness about 2 months ago. I just came up with him, and he lives out that away.
Oh, okay.
And he got some hair. That's a whole other story. We don't have time to go into all that, but this part of Missouri is chock full of stuff, especially if you go down to Mark Twain National Forest, which my research areas are, and I've got habituation people down there that have been dealing with these creatures for 10, 20 years,
Wow.
And so, and I'll call them up and you say, hey, you mind if they'll let me come down and, spend a couple nights and go camp. And, I've sat on the front porch with them and traded howls with Sasquatch. Got 120 acres in the middle of freaking nowhere.
That's
Ain't
awesome.
nobody out there. And I'm going to whoop, and you hear this whoop. It's a clone of what I just did. It's exactly my call, because they can do that. They can mimic anything. So that's just my world in a nutshell. There's so many stories in here that just you might go, okay, well, I'm with you up until you told me that.
But see, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that I love. And it's great because if you would love to be back on, Carter, I would love to have you back on.
Well, give me $20 and I'll do it.
Sounds good.
I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, I love telling, because, even if you're on the fence about some of this stuff, or even if you're some of your listeners, but, I guarantee you, I don't know if you have things scrolling by, if you have people feeding back on you, or talking to you while you're watching this or not. I don't know if you have that set up, but
No.
Somebody tonight knows somebody, or whenever you broadcast this, or they themselves had something so surreal, they just won't even talk about it, because some of these people have been affected. I've had people crying, and you could tell they're upset. They've sat on it for 20, 30 years because their spouse, boyfriends, girlfriends, co-workers, relatives shunned them. Oh my God, you don't believe in that crap. Oh, really? Come on. Go sleep on the couch. But there's people right now that are going, oh my God, that happened to us. So that somebody knows somebody but they haven't said anything for fear of ridicule.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really want to do when I started the second book. I want to be a witness advocate for the people that need a voice and just want to tell their story without somebody going, you got to be kidding me, really? Oh, come on, man. Yeah, yeah. You get. Right. I mean, what are you smoking? I mean, but people do that, and you shun them into silence. They say nothing. And you know how something eats at you? Whatever your problems are, get them out and deal with them. Don't bottle them in, no matter what it is. If love life going bad or bad job, don't let this stuff eat you. Get it out and talk to somebody about it. But this stuff is like, I think this is revelatory for some of the stuff that's going on with these beings. And they're beings, and not creatures. They're beings. I mean, I guess we're God's creatures, so we're all creatures, whoever God is, but there's, you gotta hear these people out, because there's something going on. There's just ain't no two ways about it, So.
I love that. I love that you want to be an advocate for people who have a story, because I think what's important is removing that stigmatization so that people can feel there's a safe space to be able to share those stories. And like you said, not bottle them up and not feel like they're going to be ridiculed, so that they can actually talk about it. And information is knowledge. The more we talk about it, maybe we can all learn together and, come to an understanding of what it is we're experiencing.
Yeah. I think people are talking about it a little more.
100%.
I think another 6 months to a year, we've cracked that ape only. And that's a good theory. You got to start somewhere. Right. And some of the theories that I think that I've shared with you, and some that are in the books, they may turn out to not be what we thought they were. But there's other theories. You don't just hang your hat on it. You just go, well, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. That's what it sounds like. Well, that didn't work out so well. Well, we thought it was this. Maybe it was really this. But at least you're thinking and discussing it and throwing it out there. That's all you got to do, is just talk about it, And I can hear the snickering. I've got a lot of friends that are BFRO investigators, and they will not say a word about anything paranormal in a report or at all, or they'll be cut off. Yeah, they just, because they may have experienced it, a witness may have experienced it or said it, but you will not see any paranormal or woo, which I think is a really dirty word. It's very, derogatory in Sasquatch discussion. But you will never see anything. That stuff does not exist. I've had some of my reports sanitized by BFRO. They've taken the good stuff out.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I'm a real estate agent, or was semi-retired. So I'm very anal with my paperwork. So I make copies of everything. So I copy all my reports. Then I send them in. And then I see my report published. And that's not what I said. And the witness calls me. What the hell are you doing? That's not what I told you. I said, no, that's not what I put on the paper. I told exactly what you did, and they took it out. I've got about, 7 or 8, I quit looking because it was just depressing. But, the world's largest BFRO, the world's largest Sasquatch database is corrupted. You don't know what's true and what's not. You don't know what story was rearranged so they could take some stuff out, and, they're manipulating the data. So, it's erroneous.
Wow.
It's a false positive.
And that's uncanny, because you would surmise that the foundation of such an organization was to spread awareness through the truth.
Yeah. Until they got a TV show. They got sponsors to protect.
So there you go. It goes back to agendas. It goes to, grants, funding, all of that, where if you toe a line, you toe a line. If you don't do it, can't play ball.
Who gives science all their grants? The government.
Got to stay funded.
You don't say a word, or you're done. There goes your tenure. There goes your professorship. There goes your 401k.
Right. Right.
And you think that's a bunch of baloney? It's not.
No. That's why I like.
I give scientists get a hard knock for me, because I think they're a bunch of weenies for the most part. Now, Jeff Meldrum is taking as much rope as they've given him, and he's stressed a little bit more. But he's got uber credentials. He's doing the best he can with what rope they've given him. He
Mhm.
doesn't want to hang himself. He doesn't want to lose, but they are at least open-minded enough to give him the ability to discuss it within reason. We don't know where they are, but he believes there's something out there. That's all he can really say. But
Right.
he's our best scientific advocate. Scientific advocate. He's about the only one we got. Others have gone behind, and passed away. Brenda Nagel and others that have come and gone before him. But anyway, I'll be glad to come whenever. Just let me know.
Would love
George,
that.
get in touch.
Absolutely. Could you? So where can folks find you on the internet?
Well, they've erased most of my police records, so you won't find any of my crimes. I'm just kidding. These two books,
Yeah.
Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma 1 and 2. Now, I've signed a book deal with Beyond the Fray Publishing. So you can find the black and white versions on Amazon of both these books and Kindle and books on tape. I sell these color versions. They're very nice, very slick, shiny paper, very, very nicely done, very nice and heavy. And I autograph them. Or if you want me not to autograph them, you got to give me another $10. It's all about money. Yeah. No. Yeah. If you knew how much money we don't make when we write these books,
Right.
It's just a labor of love is all it is, So, but you can go to my website, which is www.relichominid.com, RELICHOMINID.com. And, if you want to buy both books, I'll give you a break on the price on both of them. They're $22 each plus shipping, but they're very nice. They're very nice books, if I do say so myself. But I'll sell them I'll give you a reduced rate. Somebody just got to, let me know.
Carter, thank you so very much for joining me, man. We're going to do this again.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
And there you have it. I had so much fun with Carter in that conversation. We learned so much about him. We even learned about some of his early years in drumming, and that was pretty awesome as a fellow musician. So hats off to you, good sir. We also learned about Carter's two books, which I absolutely love. Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma, parts 1 and 2. And you can find those on Carter's website at relichominid.com. And you can even find Carter on Facebook, so be sure to find him and let him know we sent you. Take a moment and share this episode with anyone who you think would enjoy this kind of content. We're still a new podcast, and you single-handedly help us grow. If you're watching this video, we hope you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and ring that bell for notifications on new episodes that are coming out. Thank you all so much for all your love and support. This has been an awesome journey thus far. Until next time, take care of one another and keep thinking for yourself.